Davide, to our global Wall Street audience, what is the single statistical or ratio observation of EU banking that maybe is not in the zeitgeist right now? What's the Serra ratio that matters?
Well, I think the numbers that probably matters the most is the number of banking institutions. The EU has the highest number of banks. We're talking about a number which is in the range of 28,000 institutions. That compares basically 3 times the size of the US, basically for the same economy. And if you take the top 5 banks in Europe, in the US, in terms of concentration of deposits,
right,
they now have almost 50%. In Europe, they're not even 15%.
Very good.
So we got too many banks and not large enough.
Well, very, very interesting. Davide, not only do you do the financial, but you also look at the human condition here. And so much of it is set up with boards that I would suggest really don't represent shareholders. Is that true? The boards really don't, at Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, whatever, that they really aren't representing shareholders?
Well, yes and no, because right now, more than 70 to 80% of large European banks actually are held by institutional shareholders. So the reality is institutional shareholders can have a weight, but the reality is because about 30% are passive, no one is voting. They don't really care. They're mimicking an index. And that has become a problem. And that's why you see few activists stepping up and actually making a point, simply because the majority has basically abdicated the role of stewardship that you still see in the US.
Do you own any Deutsche Bank or Commerzbank?
We do not own any Deutsche Bank or Commerzbank equity. Right. We do own some of the credit. If they merge, it will be very positive for the credit status, because you'll basically need a recap of some sort of the other. So you probably need equity at the bottom of the capital structure. So that'll be positive for credit. Equity, we'll have to see.
I know we were talking a little bit about it last week, but does it make sense? This is, I guess, the only way in which you can really, cut costs because of the unions and because some of the labor laws. But then Deutsche Bank is also dealing with its U.S. investment arm, and I don't know how that fits into the conversation.
Well, I think there are 3 issues here. The first one is, under German labor laws, you can't really get a massive redundancy package and fire lots of people unless you have an M&A activity. Secondly, if you look at Commerzbank and Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank has about 90,000 people. If you add contractors, you're almost 110,000 for a revenue base of 28 billion euro, which is below Goldman, which has a third of employees, less than 30,000. Yeah. So the issue is Deutsche Bank has just too many employees for its revenue base. Secondly, inside Germany, Commerzbank has about 50,000 employees for an asset base, which is a quarter of the one of Deutsche Bank. So a merger between the two will strengthen and will enable cost-cutting in Germany, but will do nothing to the international operation of Deutsche Bank. And as a result, you probably need, you're looking at 30, 40,000 employees of a combined cost base that have to go. It's a huge number.
Davide, what's your favorite European bank?
Right now, on a standalone basis, our favorite are Intesa, UniCredit, Santander, and BNP.
That's sort of a retail skew there as well. You mentioned 15%, which I think for all Americans, Davide, is basically unimaginable. Who controls the politics of Germany, the politics of Austria, the politics of Italy? Is it the small banking lobby? Is it the mid-bank lobby? Or is there a conduit from, say, UniCredit right to the Italian political leaders? Who holds that power right now?
Well, first of all, in Europe, if you say banking, it's bad, simply because the populist rhetoric, it's centered around banks of money, they're not given to us, and as a result, they're bad guys. This is across Europe. It's as simple as that. Secondly, in Germany, though, because 70% of the banking market is actually state-owned, whether it's Sparkassen or Landesbanken, they hold the true power. And hence, the strongest lobby group are the Sparkassen and the Caisse d'Épargne in France. The combination of the two are the one which can basically make laws. The larger banks, forget it. They're basically in the doghouse.